if we can go into our time machine and go back to 2020, well, every time that someone tried to interject the truth about Kamala, which is that she slept her way to the top, it's a fact. She was with some 6-year-old man, got her start in the political career, and they would go, oh my gosh, how dare you say this? That's so sexist. Well, then suddenly on July 6th, the Daily Mail actually published a headline about the fact that Kamala Harris was, thoughting through life.
Over the past 24 hours, right-wingers have shifted their rhetoric to immediately attack presumptive Democratic nominee Kamala Harris with racist and sexist rhetoric. Unfortunately, there's more video where that came from. Let's watch some of those clips from Fox News and Newsmax. Take a look.
And the big challenge, the deliciousness of it all, is this woman who is literally a DEI hire, a woman who laughs about little yellow school buses and Venn diagrams, who cackles like an insane woman. How are you going to jump? How are you going to skip over her because she's female and her skin color is the correct DEI color?
Joe Biden chose her not because she was some wonderful politician. Joe Biden did not choose her based on merit. He chose her based on the same criteria of DEI that got Trump shot.
Well, assuming, Jesse, that it ends up being Kamala Harris as the nominee, and I know a lot of big Democrats are endorsing her, but the one voice that's been silent on Kamala is Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle Obama. They've been very quiet. So I think maybe Michelle Obama still may be in the mix. That being said, if in fact they go ahead
wait a
with
second.
Kamala
Is
Harris,
Michelle Obama's in the mix? Is she in the mix in Chicago, in her hometown?
They can position her as the reluctant candidate. She's a woman of color, so that squares the Kamala Harris circle, being a minority and a DEI hire.
Meanwhile, the Trump campaign put out an ad that largely avoids that rhetoric, but does hit Harris on her laugh. Take a look.
If you ever wondered how Joe Biden could get the border so screwed up, remember, he had help. Here's Biden appointing Kamala Harris to be his border czar to deal with illegal immigration. And here are a record number of illegal immigrants, 10 million and counting, flooding over the border after Harris was put in charge of stopping illegal immigration. To be fair, Harris got off to a rough start by ignoring the border.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Jank, on the DEI comments, the racist, sexist comments, what do you make of those? And do you think that's going to backfire for Republicans as the campaign continues?
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
So look, there's some legitimate issues that they can hit Kamala Harris on, including immigration. She was supposed to be in charge of that, created issues. And then there's stylistic things like the laugh. You might think that it's terrible to make fun of her for that, etc. But that is going to affect some voters. Her word salads like, I have been to the border, I have been to the border, was kind of a disaster. That's why I was a little bit worried about her. She's gotten much better recently on that. But Jordan, to the heart of your question about the illegitimate attacks, right? So Candace Owens claiming she slept her way to the top. I mean, it's just it's a terrible thing to say, right? And Charlie Kirk there saying is a DEI pick and the kind of DEI that got Trump shot. What? What are you talking about? So first off, if you said, look, partly they picked her to appeal to female voters and black voters because Joe Biden's an old white male and they were thinking of demographics, okay, that'd be fair. But then you would have to admit that Barack Obama picked Joe Biden as his VP because he was an old white male. So was that DEI? I never saw anybody criticizing that. I never saw anybody talking about race or gender about that. Now all of a sudden when it's Kamala Harris, they go and do this. But Jordan, on those illegitimate attacks, I'm not only am I not too concerned about it, I don't want to say I'm excited about it because that's not the right thing to say, but I think that they're going to backfire. And so that's why I think it's not such a bad thing that these knuckleheads are out there saying these outrageous things, because when people see that, I think a lot of women, when they see Candace Owens saying the ugly thing about how she slept her way to the top or whatever, yeah, your aggro male audience might like that, but they were gonna vote for Trump anyway. And I think that's gonna turn a lot of women voters off and is gonna be super counterproductive for Republicans and Trump. So have at it, Hoss.
No, I think that's exactly right. It is playing to a base that is already going to show up for you when this race is going to be won in the margins and in the middle. And their behavior, this rhetoric, it is so off-putting to just the average American. You have to be super online, super read in, and super conservative for this stuff to land well. Otherwise, you're gonna hear that and be like, what is that? What are you talking about? Like the DEI stuff is just a right-wing cult talking point. To anybody else, we've talked about this before, we talked about this last week, that's just standard at every company. The right wing politically is trying to make it into an issue, but the average person, the average moderate is not going to care about that because they associate that with fairness and equity, which is something that most people understand as a good thing. Reasonably, it's a reasonable point. Just like you have an accounting department, to pull from your example last week, you also want to have some element within HR to make sure everyone is treated fairly. That's great. So I think that's going to backfire. And that's not even the worst stuff that I've seen in the past 24 hours. They're going after her for not having her own kids, her having stepkids. That's going to be weird and alienating to people. All of these different types of behaviors, when the average voter sees them, is going to be off-put by them because it shows what a weird cult of personality has built around Trump and the overly specific, hyper-personal issues that they're glomming onto and trying to weaponize.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to backfire. Look, Trump was up to 21% of black voters. A part of that was because they were comparing him to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, he didn't do voting rights. He didn't do a lot of things that he said he was going to do. The inflation was causing economic problems, et cetera. That was part of it. But now, I don't think they're all coming back just because Kamala Harris is black, right? But when the right wing makes the mistake of attacking her because she's black and saying, oh, it must have been a DEI hire. When Joe Biden was picked as VP by Obama, that wasn't about race. But when it's Kamala Harris, it is about race. And we assume that she must be incompetent because look at her, she's black, she's a woman, et cetera. And even if they don't say it's because she's black, although they pretty much do, they certainly heavily imply it at every turn. Slowly, that's going to begin to turn off a lot of black voters and have them go back to the Democratic Party because they're like, yeah, brother, it's one thing to say you're against portions of DEI. And I think even some minorities are, depending on your interpretation, depending on which clause you're talking about. We can have a reasonable conversation about DEI, but this is not a reasonable conversation. The way they're framing it makes it seem like black people, women, et cetera, the only reason they're ever hired is because of DEI. Otherwise, obviously they're inferior to white males and only white males should be hired. Well, you keep saying that, brother, and you're gonna lose the election because minorities and women are gonna get awfully tired of that and they're right.
Yeah, and they're fired up, understandably so. They now have an option that isn't just an old white guy, more relatable. And for black women, this is a huge moment. This is great. Last night, you might have heard about it, but the Win with Black Women organizing call had 44,000 people attend a virtual call last night, which is just crazy for a volunteer call on a Sunday night. They raised 1.6 million, and those are 44,000 black women who are going to go out and mobilize, get people out to vote. They're going to organize and volunteer the rest of the cycle and probably inspire many other people to take action. So the more the right puts out this off-putting language, the more it inspires people who are directly affected by that rhetoric to take action.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.